Good morning again on March the 6th. We're doing a marathon Bible study. The last video I read from the King James, from the King's English, the original, from the Apocrypha on the beast system, and 2 Esdras, basically chapter 11 and some of chapter 12. We started with the introduction of the last verse of chapter 10. Now the Apocrypha in the New Revised Standard Version is modern English, and the books are in a different order than in the King James Version. And we also have another version translated by Martin Luther into German, and we believe that has got the same version, the same order of the apocryphal books as the King James Bible. So that is what we want to do in our next publication, if we can. That's what we want to do. Now this is got different sources, and so here we'll go right to where we started in the other, and this is going to be the modern English version of it, and we're going to go through this. And you can see that it's a larger print, and this is out of print. So you're going to pay more money for this Bible, but you can buy all kinds of copies secondhand. And so go ahead and get yourself a copy of this while you can. They are going to be going up in value. So you can buy one for as cheap as $1, maybe $5. But as far as getting a fresh, clean copy, the last I saw there were hardly any available, and they were in the $70 range. I think I paid $32, $36, maybe $30 for this when I first bought it. And it just has gone up in value. There are subsequent editions. You don't want those. This one, the notes are very good. They don't have a political agenda. The problem is in the text as a whole, because they take things out and add things, literally. And then they interpret things differently. Their committees saw better than, they were misguided. They didn't do a good job. So we're going to proceed right where we started in the last video. So this will be entitled Modern English. So we are at 2 Esdras, which is another name, the Latinized name of the name Ezra. And so this really would be the third book of Ezra if it was in a proper Bible that had been done with everything for consistency. So here we start with the last verse of chapter 10, verse 59. And the Most High will show you in those visions what the Most High will do to those who inhabit the earth in the last days. For I slept that night and the following one, as he told me. Chapter 11. On the second night I had a dream. I saw rising from the sea an eagle that had 12 feathered wings and 3 heads. I saw it spread its wings over the whole earth, and all the winds of heaven blew upon it, and the clouds were gathered around it. I saw that out of its wings there grew opposing wings, but they became little puny wings. But its heads were at rest. The middle head was larger than the other heads, but it too was at rest with them. Then I saw that the eagle flew with its wings, and it reigned over the earth and over those who inhabit it. And I saw how all things under heaven were subjected to it. And no one spoke against it, not a single creature that was on the earth. Then I saw the eagle rise upon its talons, and it uttered a cry to its wings, saying, Do not all watch at the same time. Let each sleep in its own place, and watch in its turn, but let the heads be reserved for the last. And I looked again and saw that the voice did not come from its heads, but from the middle of its body. I counted its rival wings, and there were 8 of them. And I watched. 1 wing on the right side rose up, and it reigned over all the earth. And after a time its reign came to an end, and it disappeared, so that even its place was no longer visible. Then the next wing rose up and reigned, and it continued to reign a long time. While it was raining, its end came also, so that it disappeared like the first. And a voice sounded, saying to it, Listen to me, you who have ruled the earth all this time. I announce this to you before you disappear. After you, no one shall rule as long as you have ruled, not even half as long. Then the third wing raised itself up and held the rule as the earlier ones had done, and it also disappeared. And so it went with all the wings. They wielded power one after another, and then were never seen again. I kept looking, and in due time the wings that followed also rose up on the right side in order to rule. There were some of them that ruled, yet disappeared suddenly, and others of them rose up, but did not hold the rule. And after this I looked and saw that the 12 wings and the 2 little wings had disappeared, and nothing remained on the eagle's body except the 3 heads that were at rest and 6 little wings. As I kept looking, I saw that 2 little wings separated from the 6 and remained under the head that was on the right side, but 4 remained in their place. Then I saw that these little wings planned to set themselves up and to rule. As I kept looking, one was set up, but suddenly disappeared. A second also, and this disappeared more quickly than the first. While I continued to look, the 2 that remained were planning between themselves to reign together. And while they were planning, one of the heads that was at rest, the one that was in the middle, suddenly awoke, and it was greater than the other 2 heads. And I saw how it allied the 2 heads with itself, and how the head turned with those that were with it and devoured the 2 little wings that were planning to reign. Moreover, this head gained control of the whole earth with much oppression, dominated its inhabitants. And with much oppression, dominated its inhabitants. It had greater power over the world than all the wings that had gone before it. After this I looked again and saw the head in the middle suddenly disappear, just as the wings had done, but the 2 heads remained, which also in like manner ruled over the earth and its inhabitants. And while I looked, I saw the head on the right side devour the one on the left. Then I heard a voice saying to me, Look in front of you and consider what you see. When I looked, I saw what seemed to be a lion roused from the forest, roaring. And I heard it utter a human voice to the eagle, and spoke, saying, Listen, and I will speak to you. The Most High says to you, You are not the one that remains of the 4 beasts. You are the one that remains of the 4 beasts that I had made to reign my world, so that the end of my times might come through them. You, the 4th that has come, have conquered all the beasts that have gone before, and you have held sway over the world with great terror, and over all the earth with grievous oppression. And for so long you have lived on the earth with deceit. You have judged the earth, but not with truth, for you have oppressed the meek and injured the peaceable. You have hated those who tell the truth, and have loved liars, and have destroyed the homes of those who brought forth fruit, and have laid low the walls of those who did you no harm. Your insolence has come up before the Most High, and your pride to the Mighty One. The Most High has looked at his times, now they have ended, and his ages have reached completion. Therefore, you, eagle, will surely disappear, you and your terrifying wings, your most evil little wings, your malicious heads, your most evil talons, and your whole worthless body, so that the whole earth, freed from your violence, may be refreshed and relieved, and may hope for the judgment and mercy of him who made it. Chapter 12. While the lion was saying these words to the eagle, I looked and saw that the remaining head had disappeared. The 2 wings that had gone over to it rose up and set themselves up to reign, and their reign was brief and full of tumult. When I looked again, they were already vanishing. The whole body of the eagle was burned, and the earth was exceedingly terrified. Then I awoke up in great perplexity of mind and with great fear, and I said to my spirit, You have brought this upon me, because you searched out the ways of the Most High. I am still weary in my mind and very weak in my spirit, and not even a little strength is left in me, because of the great fear with which I have been terrified tonight. Therefore I will now entreat the Most High, that he may strengthen me to the end. Then I said, O sovereign Lord, if I have found favor in your sight, and if I have been accounted righteous before you beyond many others, and if my prayer has indeed come up before your face, strengthen me, and show me, your servant, the interpretation and meaning of this terrifying vision, so that you may fully comfort my soul. For you have judged me worthy to be shown the end of the times, and the last events of the times. He said this to me, This is the interpretation of the vision that you have seen. The eagle that you saw coming up from the sea is the fourth kingdom that appeared in a vision to your brother Daniel. But it was not explained to him, as I now explain it to you, or have explained it. The days are going when a kingdom shall rise on earth, and it shall be more terrifying than all the kingdoms that have been before it. And 12 kings shall reign in it, one after another. But the second that is to reign shall hold sway for a longer time than any other one of the 12. This is the interpretation of the 12 wings that you saw. As for hearing a voice that spoke, coming not from the eagle's heads, but from the midst of its body, this is the interpretation. In the midst of the time of that kingdom, great struggles shall arise, and it shall be in danger of falling. Nevertheless, it shall not fall then, but shall regain its former power. As for your seeing 8 little wings clinging to its wings, this is the interpretation. 8 kings shall arise in it, whose time shall be short, and their years swift. 2 of them shall perish when the middle of its time draws near, and 4 shall be kept for the time when its end approaches, but 2 shall be kept until the end. And as for seeing 3 heads at rest, this is the interpretation. In its last days the Most High will raise up 3 kings, and they shall renew many things in it, and shall rule the earth and its inhabitants more oppressively than all who were before them. Therefore they are called the heads of the eagle, because it is they who shall sum up his wickedness and perform his last actions. As for your seeing that the large head disappeared, one of the kings shall die in his bed, but in agonies. But as for the 2 who remained, the sword shall devour them. For the sword of one shall devour him who was with him, but he also shall fall by the sword in the last days. As for your seeing 2 little wings passing over to the head which was on the right side, this is the interpretation. It is these whom the Most High has kept for the eagle's end. This was the reign which was brief and full of tumult, as you have seen. But as for the lion, whom you saw rousing up out of the forest and roaring and speaking to the eagle and reproving him for his unrighteousness, and as for all his words that you have heard, this is the Messiah, whom the Most High has kept until the end of days, who will arise from the offspring of David and will come and speak with them. He will denounce them for their ungodliness and for their wickedness. He will display before them their contemptuous dealings. For first he will bring them alive before his judgment seat, and when he has reproved them, then he will destroy them. But in mercy he will set free the remnant of my people, those who have been saved throughout my borders, and he will make them joyful until the end comes, the end of judgment, of which I spoke to you at the beginning. This is the dream that you saw, and this is its interpretation. And you alone were worthy to learn the secret of the Most High. Therefore write all these things that you have seen in a book. Put it in a hidden place, and you shall teach them to the wise among your people, whose hearts you know are able to comprehend and keep these secrets. But as for you, wait here 7 more days, so that you may be shown whatever it pleases the Most High to show you. Then he left me. We'll go another verse further. When all the people heard that the 7 days were past, and I had not returned to the city, they all gathered together, and from the least to the greatest, and came to me and spoke to me, saying, How have we offended you? And what harm have we done you, that you have forsaken us and sit in this place? For of all the prophets, you alone are left to us, like a cluster of grapes from the vintage, and like a lamp in a dark place, and like a haven for a ship saved from a storm. Are not the disasters that have befallen us enough? Therefore, if you forsake us, how much better it would have been for us if we had been consumed in the burning of Zion. For we are no better than those who died there. And they wept with a loud voice. And I answered them and said, Take courage, O Israel, and do not be sorrowful, O house of Jacob, for the Most High has you in remembrance, and the Mighty One has not forgotten you in your struggle. As for me, I have neither forsaken you nor withdrawn from you. But I have come to this place to pray on account of the desolation of Zion, and to seek mercy on account of the humiliation of our sanctuary. Now go to your homes, every one of you, and after these days I will come to you. So the people went into the city as I told them to do. And I sat in the field 7 days as the angel had commanded me, and I ate only the flowers of the field, and my food was of plants during those days. And after 7 days, chapter 13, I dreamed a dream in the night, and lo, a wind arose from the sea and stirred up all its waves. As I kept looking, the wind made something like a figure of a man come up out of the heart of the sea. And I saw that this man flew with the clouds of heaven, and wherever he turned his face to look, everything under his gaze trembled. And whenever his voice issued from his mouth, all who heard his voice melted as wax melts when it feels the fire. I will tell you that the longest kingdom upon the face of the earth in history lasted 1100 years. It was the Byzantine Empire, and it did so because it limited the professions to which a certain minority living among them would be allowed to work in. Thereby it lengthened its days to 1100 years. That 1100 years ended sometime during this last couple of millennia. And it was Eustace Mullins who wrote about the Byzantine Empire and this fact of history. It lasted 1100 years. So we might regard this one wing or feather, whatever it is that reigns the longest, as the Byzantine Empire. I believe we're in the last days, and I believe we know the heads of the eagles. We know that these are the 3 great wicked cities that rule the earth today. That being Rome, the biggest head of it all, the city of London, which was established second, and then Washington, D.C., which was established third. I believe those are the 3 heads of the eagle. And I believe we are living at the time when one of those little heads will eat and devour the other head. So I ask you, which head do you think is going to devour the other head? Will the head that wages war across the face of the earth devour the head that rules through their money magic, through their psychological operations, through their money, the theft and all that they do out of the City of London? Or will the City of London, will the money changers, the money lenders, the merchants eat up the war machine? Which do you think is going to survive out of the two? Because that's what we're witnessing right now. And as far as the big head, the city of Rome, she's still there. And so here we have the vision of the end times that we're living through. There's only 102 of you subscribed to this channel. And I think I've done my work here. I think I've brought to you what needed to be brought to you. I really think my work is done, to be honest with you. You can see I've dog-eared the pages of this book. I'd like to come up with a better version if I can, if it's possible. And I think it's possible. Pray for that outcome. I'd love to see that come to fruition. I'm an old man, but I'm not that old that I couldn't see this come to fruition. I've turned to my big brothers, my older, wiser brothers that know more about the scriptures than I know, and I've gotten input from them. May Yahweh bless you. Let me end on this. I think it's a good positive note. And what we read about was the man coming who's going to be defending the peaceable ones, but with great weaponry coming from his mouth. We'll get into that another time. May Yahweh bless you. I have done this series without having my Bluetooth hearing aids linked to the phone, so I apologize if the sound's not strong enough. I just set this up and did it. The hearing is fine for me. I know it's not quite as strong as it would be for you, but it's also perhaps more accurate using the microphone on the cell phone than it is using the microphones and the Bluetooth hearing aids. I just don't know. I don't get any feedback. I don't know if you like the sound of the hearing aids better than the microphone built into the cell phone. Let me know what you think sometime. Give me some feedback. Share this video. Buy this Bible that I have, the proper name version of the King James Bible. It is the best version available today. And pray that my goals be realized. I realize that it could just be my ego. But you see, I got a beef. I got a problem. One of my distant relatives produced the original King James Bible of 1611. He also wrote those magnificent plays. And we couldn't call him by his proper last name because then the Queen would have lost her head, literally. I'd like to know the name of the Kent that fathered Sir Francis Bacon. We know that William Shakespeare was an illiterate gentleman. He was a horse handler on the Kent estate. There were only 4 examples of his handwriting in existence. And in one of those, he couldn't even form a proper X. He was a horse handler. He was the front man for the Shakespearean plays, written by Sir Francis Bacon, whose mother was the Queen. And he was fathered by one of the Kents. That's why I feel so privileged to bring you this new version. I really do. And I'd like to bring you another one on top of that, if I can. I'd like to bring the apocryphal books to you and maybe some other books on top of that. So if you want to pray for me, pray for my health, pray for Yahweh's continued guidance, pray for his provisions. Above all, pray for my attitude, because I realize that Job was right. We have to be grateful even in the worst of times. We also have to realize that as much as we want to blame the Chi-Coms or the Democrats or anybody for our problems, that we're the cause of our problems. We failed to keep our eyes and vision focused on Yahweh. We failed to abide by the terms on Mount Sinai, and as a result, we are suffering all of those consequences that are delineated in the Bible in writing twice, in the book of Deuteronomy and the book of Leviticus. So that's America today. We are the Israelites. We're descendant of Israelites. We are the great nation that Israel, the man, foretold of his 2 boys, whom he adopted from his son Joseph, Ephraim and his older son Manasseh, who became the great nation. I have trouble understanding that magnificent cross of St. Andrew and that magnificent crossing of the arms of Israel. Yes, he confounds me even to this day. As much as I read it, I can read it one way or the other way. And so if you want to claim that Ephraim is the United States, okay, fine. I think it's Manasseh. It took me a long time to realize Manasseh was the older of the 2, and Ephraim became a company of nations, became Great Britain. But definitely those empires have faltered. The United States of America has been taken over from within. We haven't been a republic in a long time. I dare say we haven't had a republic since Abraham Lincoln. That lying son of a bitch became president. I know I shouldn't judge him. I wasn't alive at that particular time to see what he was up against. I just don't know. But I really would have preferred that Calhoun had been president. There were some great men of the South that could have avoided all of that fighting among ourselves. You see, I think the South was right. And I'm not talking right about slavery. The first slave owner was Mr. Johnson, a black man in Virginia. And the first slave was a white man. And that happened because the white man agreed to 2 years of servitude, I believe, in exchange for his passage to the New World. And so he signed the contract. And he bolted. And after the 3rd time, when he went before the judge was tired of him and tired of his failing to fulfill his contract, so he made him a permanent slave of Mr. Johnson. So that's how your slavery started. The blacks enslaved the whites. Sure looks like we're enslaved to them today. We're required to support them. We're required to worship them. They have more value than we have. There is black privilege that we have to, they're better than we are. We have to regard them higher. And we live in an age of deception where the claim is that the police are killing the blacks. Look, if you're a white guy, be careful, because the police are 4 times more willing to pull their weapons on us and dispatch us than they are on a black gentleman. Those are the facts. The blacks, yes, they get shot once in a while by the police, but whites get shot far more often. Not just because we have greater numbers, but because the police know they won't get in trouble for shooting a white guy nearly as much as they shoot one of those precious blacks. Sorry, that's the truth of it all. May Yahweh bless. I think we're pretty much done with this series. You know who the 3 heads are for sure. If you can tell me who those wings are, I'd love to hear from you. If you can tell me who the feathers are. I also believe that this bird gets burned from one end to the other end. And I think that could be a nuclear war. It could be what happens to the United States of America. Or it could be to the whole world. Those outcomes are written in the Bible. They are possibilities for our future. Yahweh bless.